Let's say for whatever reason you wanted to use Photoshop to create a brochure or a flyer or that sort of thing. I'm going to create a new document. Now there's a couple of options that you can use in the presets, such as US paper, international paper, photo. I leave it to you to play with all of the different options that are available, but for now we just want a default 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and it sets it up for us 8.5 by 11, 300, which is the right print DPI. Press OK. Right now what we have a paper, nothing on it. We have a background layer, which also has nothing on it. Not going to spend too much time looking for the perfect image for this. Just going to use the same example images we've been using so far, which are default images that come with Photoshop. If you look in the image folder somewhere inside of Photoshop, you can find these images and play around with them yourself. Alright, so just opening 3 images, and going to close this last one, and I think I only need 2 images for this example. Zoom out on this, Control minus, zoom out on this, Control minus, and drag these 2 images into the comp. Great, great. First thing I'm noticing, they greatly decreased in size when I dragged them to the comp. And the reason for that is this is just far bigger in size. If you look at the image size of this, this is 2,550 pixels across, whereas if you look at the image size of this, I'm just going to image size right here, this is only 360 pixels across. So this is going to be just a much smaller image. So we're not going to use that as our example. Make sure that you're always starting with good source images. I'm just going to say this very quickly. Good source images are everything. If you're pulling something offline, if you're pulling something off of a really lousy camera, you're not going to have good image quality, and if you try to send them to print, it's just not going to work. Now, sure, if I wanted, I could increase the size with our friend the transform tool. Just holding down shift, remember to constrain the proportions, but you'll notice how much the quality decreases. Basically, it's trying to use very little pixel information to make a much larger size. So if I were to press enter to commit this, sure, it looks all right, but if you zoom into it, you can see that this is just incredibly blurry and isn't going to work if you try to print it. So I'm going to undo this and make it so our example is with a little bit smaller of a file. So just a file that's maybe width of 3 inches, height of 5 inches. Close out of this, don't save it, and now drag this into here, and it's a little bit bigger, a little bit more usable. Actually, looking at this, I want to make it a little bit wider, so I'm just going to change that with canvas size. I know I'm throwing a lot your way. If you're not familiar with this right now, don't worry about it, as I will be covering it more in depth later. Basically, all I'm doing is increasing the canvas size, just like that. Alright, so you can see that it increased over here a little bit. Alright, now in setting up this brochure or flyer or whatever you want to call it, I know that I want a couple of things. I know that in the top part I want some text, so I'm going to actually create a new layer with nothing on it, and use the brush tool just to say what I want. So I want, whoa, that's a lousy color. Let's change the color of that. Down here you have some color options. I'm just going to click it, move it to black, press OK. Alright, so up here I know that I want text. Should probably get my Wacom out using a what am I using? I'm using the touchpad on my laptop right now. Not even using a mouse. It's too lazy to grab it. Alright, so I know that I want text up here. I know that I want an image over here. I know that I want another image over here. And I want a bunch of text that's going around here. So we're just going to have this, and we'll eventually turn this layer to off. But we'll use this for now as kind of the template. Something you can do with layers is up here, something called opacity. That changes the opacity of it. So if you take it all the way down to 0, you won't be able to see the layer. If you take it to 50%, you can see through the layer a little bit. So we're going to use this as what we're basing the flyer off of. So first thing, go into our text tool and say, all right, what are we calling this? Flower time, the flyer. Great. A terrific title that everyone would be proud of. In order to change the size of that text, yes, sure, we could go into these options and change the font, but that's not really interactive enough. So just going to use free transform one more time, if only to nail in what it is free transform does, and just increase the size of it. Obviously, I could change the font up here. I could change if it's bold, italic, whatever up here. I'm not going to worry about any of that. All right, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to select the flower layer. And I see that I only want it filling this little bit of space that's this box over here. Now I could try to transform the size and make it so it goes into this smaller space. But frankly, I think that's a little bit too small of an image. What I would much rather do is have it so we're only looking at this top part of the flower. And in order to do that, just going to turn this layer off by hitting the eye icon. There, that layer's off. In order to do that, let's zoom in, Control plus. I'm going to select part of this image using this tool up here and delete the rest of it. So just going to use this selection tool. It's called the Marquee tool, but just think of it as a selection tool. And that creates an active region just around the flower. Now anything we do will only be seen inside of this region. So if I were to go in with the brush and I wanted to paint out here, I couldn't do it because it's not in the active region. Right now I'm clicking and I'm trying to drag it around. Only when we enter into this active region are we able to click. If you wanted to erase some stuff, you'll notice there's an eraser tool right here. Going to introduce that right now. We can erase out here, but we can erase in here. And this is just erasing out this flower right here. All right, but we don't want to erase out the middle part. We want to erase out everything else. So in order to do that, you can right-click inside of this and click Select Inverse, and that selects everything that is previously unselected. And now, we can erase out in here. Now, a lot of people at this point would show you how to increase the size of the brush by right-clicking and changing the master diameter, so it becomes bigger that way. But frankly, that is such a lousy way to go about it. I'm going to give you a million shortcut keys, and you better memorize them because they're good to know. So the thing that increases and decreases the size of any brush, including the eraser, and I think of the eraser as a type of brush, is the square bracket key. So that thing located right to the right of the P button on a keyboard. Square bracket key, just by clicking the square bracket key, and here, let me just show you what I mean when I say square bracket key, because some people aren't familiar with it. It's the key that looks like this, and also like this. You click this key in order to make the brush smaller, and this key in order to make the brush larger. In order to get rid of this without committing the text, I'm just going to press Escape, and you'll notice that this layer just kind of goes away once I press Escape. There we go. All right, so going back to the eraser tool, going to increase the size with the square bracket key, decrease it, increase it, and now I can just delete out around all of this. And that makes it so we, now have only the part of it that we want. So I'm going to deselect by going into clicking on this tool,